Lately, have you felt this underlying hum of stress, something that seems to go beyond just the usual day-to-day pressures?
hmm
Maybe it's I don't know, a tightness in your chest or just this general feeling of unease you can't quite shake?
Yeah, a lot of people are feeling that.
Well, you might be feeling the effects of what Interzistance is calling the 2025 stress recession.
Right.
And this isn't just about money worries.
No, not at all.
Today, this deep dive is really laser focused on how that economic pressure is directly impacting your health. I mean, the real tangible effects on your mind and your body.
That's exactly right. We've been looking closely at Interzistance's analysis, and what's really striking is how clearly they've sort of mapped the connections, the pathways between economic instability and very specific health challenges.
Okay.
It's not just a vague feeling. There are concrete links, and that's what we really want to explore with you today. We're going to delve into how this stress recession is actually showing up in our physical and mental well-being.
Okay, so this term, 2025 stress recession. When we hear a recession, naturally our minds jump straight to finances, to the economy.
Right. Standard reaction.
But Interzistance is saying it's much broader than that. Yeah. It's not just about like a dip in the market hitting our wallets.
Precisely. I mean, while financial hardship is, of course, a huge part of it, undeniably a core component, the 2025 stress recession, as Interzistance defines it, covers a much wider spectrum of consequences.
Wider how?
Well, specifically impacting our emotional, mental, and physical states. What's particularly noteworthy, according to their analysis, is the sheer intensity and the sort of pervasiveness of this stress compared to previous economic downturns.
More intense, really.
Yeah, it seems so. It's not just a temporary blip this time, it feels like, or their data suggests a sustained period of heightened pressure that's really, really taken a toll.
Okay, and what are the key economic factors? The triggers that Interzistance has identified as being particularly impactful, especially on our health?
Well, their research points to several big ones. First and foremost is job insecurity.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
the actual threat of losing your job, or even just the constant worry about potential layoffs.
Mm-hmm.
That creates a significant level of ongoing anxiety for, well, a huge number of people.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the relentless increase in the cost of living. That puts a very tangible strain on household budgets, forcing really difficult choices sometimes.
Yeah, you feel that everywhere.
Exactly. And the erosion of retirement savings. That just adds another layer of worry about, long-term financial stability.
And housing.
Oh, absolutely. Tragically, for many, housing instability remains a critical and deeply stressful concern. And kind of underpinning all of this is this pervasive fear of long-term economic insecurity, a feeling that maybe the stability we thought we had isn't quite so certain anymore.
Wow. And these aren't just like abstract worries floating around in our heads, are they? Interzistence seems very clear that these economic pressures have very real physical consequences in our
Right.
bodies. How does that actually happen? How does the translation work?
Right. So when we experience these kinds of sustained economic stressors,
Hmm.
our bodies basically react as if they're facing any major threat.
Fight or flight.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Our nervous system kicks into high gear, releasing a flood of hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Now, short term, that's fine. It's a natural survival response.
Okay.
But when these triggers are relentless, when they're prolonged, which Interzistance suggests is the case with this stress recession, this continuous activation of the stress response system, that can lead to significant and potentially lasting damage to our health.
Okay, right. So we've got the economic triggers, we understand the stress response. Now let's really dig into the core of what Interzistance is uncovering, the specific health problems, the ones being directly linked to this 2025 stress recession. Maybe start with what's happening inside our heads mentally.
Sure. Yeah, one of the most profound impacts they highlight is a clear decline in mental health. Interzistance's analysis points to increased rates of both anxiety and depression.
Okay.
The persistent worry about money, about the future,
Uh-huh.
it can lead to just constant feelings of unease or a pervasive sense of sadness.
Yeah.
They're also seeing heightened levels of hopelessness and burnout, that feeling of being completely, utterly drained emotionally, mentally.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. And sadly, there's also a concerning rise in emotional fatigue and feelings of isolation. People might pull back from friends, from family, when they feel overwhelmed and just unable to cope.
That's a really sobering picture. And it's not just our mental well-being that takes a hit, is it? Interzistance says our physical health suffers too.
Oh, absolutely.
Can you walk us through some of those key physical manifestations, the things Interzistance highlighted?
Yeah, definitely. So that sustained elevation of stress hormones like cortisol, it can have really serious knock-on effects physically. Interzistance puts a lot of emphasis on cardiovascular stress.
Like heart
It
problems.
can manifest that way, yeah.
Okay.
Things like hypertension, high blood pressure, or even just experiencing chest tightness, that kind of thing.
Right.
Digestive issues are also really common. The gut-brain connection is super sensitive to cortisol levels, so you see more stomach problems, indigestion.
Mm-hmm.
And furthermore, chronic stress. Well, it's well documented that it weakens the immune system, makes us more susceptible to catching colds, flu, other illnesses.
Right. More sick days.
Exactly. And tragically, something else Intersistance's findings point to is an increase in substance abuse.
Oh.
Yeah, as a sort of maladaptive coping mechanism.
Mm.
Some individuals might turn to alcohol or drugs to try and self-medicate to manage that overwhelming stress.
Wow. It really is like a cascade, isn't it? The economic worries lead to mental stress, which then starts chipping away at our physical health.
Precisely.
And as Interzistance points out, this doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It spills over into how we live our lives, how we interact with people.
Exactly right. This ongoing stress can really disrupt fundamental parts of our daily routines and our relationships. We see more issues with poor sleep quality, for instance, or irregular eating habits, maybe more takeout, less healthy food.
Convenience food when you're stressed.
Yeah, exactly. And the constant strain of money worries that can create significant tension and conflict in marriages within families.
Yeah, I can see that.
And like we touched on with isolation, that feeling of being totally overwhelmed can lead people to pull away from their social support networks, the very people who can help them navigate these challenging times.
So if we step back, the core message from Interzistance seems to be that this 2025 stress recession is hitting us hard, health-wise, mentally, physically, even disrupting our lifestyles and relationships. It's way more profound than just, an economic dip.
That's absolutely the key takeaway. It's about recognizing the very real human cost, the tangible health consequences that are just completely intertwined with these broader economic pressures. Intersistance's analysis really provides a crucial framework for understanding just how deeply these forces are affecting our actual well-being.
So we've established the problem. The link between the economy and health is clear thanks to Intersistance's work. But people listening might be wondering, how do I even know if my stress is related to this specific recession? How can they identify it?
That's a really good question. Intersistence suggests looking for patterns. Is your financial fear like a constant background hum? Are you noticing sleep disruptions, trouble falling asleep, waking up worried that maybe you weren't there before, or have gotten worse?
Okay.
Also, increased emotional volatility. Are you quicker to anger or feeling tearful more easily? And physically, pay attention to bodily tension like tight shoulders, jaw clenching, headaches that seem to have emerged or ramped up alongside these economic uncertainties. If these things coincide with a downturn, it's likely related.
Right, those connections. And Interzistance, they don't just diagnose the problem, do they? They offer a framework for dealing with it.
Yes, exactly. They propose the Interzistance framework as a tool for sort of rebalancing internally. It focuses on aligning 4 key pillars: body, mind, spirit, and health.
Body, mind, spirit, health. Okay.
The idea is that during times of external chaos, like this stress recession, focusing on internal alignment can help you regain a sense of control and build resilience.
So it's about shifting focus inward.
In large part, yes. Building an internal refuge, you could say.
Okay, can we quickly touch on some actionable strategies from that framework? Maybe pillar by pillar. What can people actually do, starting with the body?
Sure. For the body pillar, Interzistance emphasizes prioritizing movement. Even short walks count. It helps burn off stress hormones. Also, things like focusing on sleep hygiene, deep breathing exercises, simple stuff, really, and grounding techniques to reduce cortisol and bring back a sense of calm.
Okay, simple but effective. What about the mind?
For the mind, it's about decluttering that mental space. Journaling can be huge for getting thoughts out of your head. Practicing mindfulness, even for a few minutes. And importantly, limiting exposure to negative news cycles. Establishing routines can also help create stability.
Right, create some structure. And spirit, that sounds a bit more abstract.
It can be, but it's really about reconnecting with your sense of purpose or meaning. This could be through volunteering, meditation, engaging in meaningful rituals, or just consciously acknowledging your core values, what truly matters to you beyond the external pressures.
Finding that anchor. Okay, And finally, health. Didn't we already cover health impacts?
We covered the problems, but the health pillar in the framework is about proactive support. So focusing on nourishing your body with healthy whole foods, prioritizing that overprocessed stuff or constant takeout, even when stressed.
Yeah, easier said than done sometimes.
Absolutely, but it makes a difference. They also mentioned considering things like herbal remedies or adaptogens for adrenal support, under guidance, of course. Staying hydrated is key.
Right.
And importantly, scheduling check-ins virtual or in person with healthcare professionals. Don't neglect preventative care.
So it's a holistic approach across these four areas.
Exactly. The core idea is that total internal wellness isn't just nice to have right now. Interzistance argues it's essential for navigating this period. It's about shifting focus from economic panic towards intentional living and finding internal clarity.
Makes sense. And I guess a common concern would be cost, right? Especially during economic hardship. Are there affordable ways to manage this stress using these ideas?
Definitely. Interzistance stresses that many effective strategies are low cost or free. Walking is free. Journaling just needs pen and paper. Healthy cooking at home is usually cheaper than eating out. Simple stretching routines. Connecting with loved ones, call a friend. There are tons of free guided meditations online. The key, they emphasize, is consistency, not necessarily expensive programs.
Consistency over cost. Good point.
Hmm.
And if people want to learn more about this interzistance framework or get started,
Interzistance offers resources. They suggest starting with simple daily rituals, small, achievable actions based on the four pillars. You can check out their website or subscribe to their Substack, where they share wellness resources, ritual charts, and even deep dive audio guides on these topics.
okay, good to know there are pathways to follow. So wrapping this specific part up, the main idea is that while the external economic pressures are real and impactful on health,
Yes.
we have more power than we might think over our internal response. By focusing on wellness through approaches like the Interzistance framework, we can build resilience.
Precisely. It's about cultivating an inner-centeredness, awareness, and resilience through intentional living and these grounded wellness practices, even when the outside world feels chaotic.
We've covered a lot, really drilling down into how this 2025 stress recession, as Interzistance calls it, can affect your health, drawing directly from their analysis. It's clear the consequences are far-reaching.
Absolutely. And just understanding these connections, being aware of them, that's a powerful first step. It helps you recognize maybe what you're feeling isn't just you, it's part of a larger pattern many are experiencing.
So the big picture here is that the 2025 stress recession has really significant health implications, mental, physical, lifestyle, going way beyond just the financial side of things.
That's right. Intersistence's work really shines a light on these crucial connections, showing just how deeply these economic forces can, get under our skin, quite literally.
We really hope this deep dive has offered you some valuable clarity, some understanding of the very real health implications tied to the current economic climate.
Yeah, hopefully some actionable insights, too.
Remember to like, share, and subscribe to our Interzistance newsletter for more interesting total wellness topics of discussion.
Your support helps us keep digging into these important topics.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. As this economic landscape keeps shifting, what's one small intentional step you could take today, just one thing to cultivate a little bit more internal balance and resilience for yourself?